UN released a statement about Ukrainian war crimes. Biden is no longer a US president. Satanic cults rule in Ukraine. Find out about these and other works of Kremlin propaganda in today's episode. Detector Media did all the dirty fact-checking work for you. We have separated real facts from those of a parallel universe. My name is Vadym Miskyi. In the next 10 minutes I will tell you about the most impressive examples of Kremlin propaganda, as well as about some international media that use unverified sources of information. Here we go. Executions, torture, rape. According to Kremlin disinformation, all this is the work of the Ukrainian military. The UN is claimed to have reported on Ukraine's war crimes. As it goes, numerous violations of international law by Ukraine were mentioned in the report of the UN Human Rights Council Commission. As noted by Stop Fake fact-checkers, among hundreds of facts of torture, executions and violence of Russian occupiers against civilians in Ukraine, the documents reported 2 cases of ill treatment of Russian soldiers by Ukraine. Pro-Kremlin media ignored the main conclusion of international experts. But after a short while, Russian propagandists finished reading the document and changed their minds. Russia's Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said that UN is proven to be biased in the investigation of crimes in Ukraine. She said experts did not even try to present the document as objective and balanced. This is not true. The report was compiled by a group of independent investigators from different countries. The facts of violations were considered regardless of the citizenship of the potential responsible persons.
As regards violations against personal integrity, we were struck by the large number of executions in the areas that we visited. The Commission is currently investigating such deaths in 16 towns and settlements. We have received credible allegations regarding many more cases of executions, which we are documenting further. Common elements of such crimes include the prior detention of the victims, as well as visible signs of executions on bodies, such as hands tied behind backs, gunshot wounds to the head, and slit throats.
Propagandists regularly resort to similar manipulations. In the course of the war, they focus on the smallest offenses committed by the Ukrainian army, this way overlooking hundreds of atrocities committed against civilians by the Russian army. President of the International Court of Justice issued a statement during the General Assembly that Russia was obliged to stop military operations on the territory of Ukraine.
Under these circumstances, the court concluded that Ukraine had a plausible right not to be subjected to military operations by the Russian Federation for the purpose of preventing and punishing an alleged genocide in the territory of Ukraine. Further, the court concluded that a link existed between the right of Ukraine that it had found to be plausible and the requested provisional measures. The court also concluded that the right of Ukraine that it had found to be plausible was of such a nature that prejudice to that right was capable of causing irreparable harm and that there was urgency. It observed that any military operation, in particular one on the scale of that carried out by the Russian Federation on the territory of Ukraine, inevitably causes loss of life, mental and bodily harm, and damage to property and to the environment.
According to the UN, from February 24th to October 17th this year, experts documented more than 16,000 cases of death and injuries among Ukrainian civilians. Are you familiar with what war correspondents of respected TV networks such as the BBC usually do? They simulate hiding in a trench. They have nothing else to do. This fake was published in October by pro-Russian media and propaganda Telegram channels. As proof, they showed a photo of a BBC correspondent, Jeremy Bowen, in a helmet and bulletproof vest with the press sign and a microphone in his hands. Propagandists claim that it was a staged video because instead of firefights and explosions, a woman with bags appeared in the background. In fact, this image is a screenshot from Jeremy Bowen's TV report from March 6, 2022. He was covering the evacuation of Irpin residents and an area that was under heavy shelling by Russian troops.
There's a fair amount of incoming fire coming into this now. Artillery fire, there are loads of civilians around. Families coming out, there's a lady there with her dog. Following on, this is the edge of the town that the Russians have got to.
This video showed the woman and other people in the frame having to duck or get to the ground after hearing a powerful explosion nearby.
Journalists tried to help the casualties.
Bowen wrote, "This malicious tweet and others like it allege that I faked a piece to camera in Ukraine in March. The allegations are utterly false, fake news. Insult me if you want. Don't insult thousands of civilians fleeing over Irpin Bridge into Kiev from Russian shelling and war crimes." Have you heard that Joe Biden is no longer the president of the United States? No, but the Kremlin propagandists have. According to them, Biden was removed from the power. The reports claim that the US president was removed from office due to age-related cognitive difficulties. In the publications, the Kremlin media refer to Fox News interview with Claudia Tenney, a member of the House of Representatives from the Republican Party. However, this is not the case.
Well, this is really sad, but he reminds me of a Madame Tussauds wax figure. He comes out and they turn him on and he delivers talking points that are presented to him by his shadow government, the staff behind him. And he's really showing that he's not competent to do this most important job in our nation. And I've joined on a letter with Congressman Ronnie Jackson about making him subject to a cognitive test. You know, this is serious stuff. We've got enemies around the world. You've been interviewing tremendous people about China, about what's happening in the war in Europe, which is unprecedented. We've got to start looking into whether Joe Biden is actually capable of being the president. I think he's not. I think we should consider all of these avenues.
As you can see, the congresswoman did not say that Joe Biden was removed from power. Russian propaganda relies on fakes like these to convince people that it's really bad in the United States. Even their president doesn't seem to understand what he is doing because of his advanced age. Propagandists have also repeatedly promoted the claim that Russian society supports Republicans and former US President Donald Trump. On the other hand, the current President Biden does not have such support due to his assistance and military protection given to Ukraine. By spreading fakes about Joe Biden's removal from office, Russian propaganda wants to undermine the confidence of Ukrainians that the United States will continue to remain an ally of Ukraine in the war with Russia. Ukraine needs to be de-Satanized and de-Shaitanized. Russians have come up with a new goal for the so-called special military operation. They claim that the Kiev regime has made Ukraine into a totalitarian hyper-sect that practices neo-paganism at the basis of radical nationalism. Assistant Secretary to the Russian Security Council Alexei Pavlov also claims that the number of satanic sects in Ukraine is unknown, but definitely in the hundreds. Likewise, the head of Chechnya spoke about goal to de-Shaitanize Ukraine.
Я вам даю слово, Дон. Мы будем нападать на них каждый день. И каждый день будем уничтожать их, Дон. Я вам даю слово, да, будут у нас показатели, да, такие, что и мало не покажется, да. Мы этих шайтанов, да, не будем брать в плен, да, будем сжигать их, да. Не остановимся нигде, да, наша территория, да, не Запорожье, да, не Херсон, наша территория, Одесса, Киев, Харьков, все, да, регионы, да, и в целом Украина это наша, да, территория российская, да. И кто не понимает, да, этого должен понять теперь, да.
Probably Pavlov's reference to religious beliefs, totalitarianism and radical nationalism in one sentence is an unsuccessful attempt to mix Ukraine and Nazi Germany yet again. References to Nazi occultism were used in the letter to create mystical atmosphere around the Third Reich. As the Old English proverb says, speak of the devil and he doth appear. The whole world knows who Satan really is. Just kidding, of course. Putin is not the devil, but a war criminal. And we will do all we can to ensure that he faces his day of judgment in The Hague. Have a nice day. See you next time.